Welcome back, everybody, to my YouTube channel. This is Mr. Optimistic, and today we're going to go over basically some short, mid, and long-term goals and what that basically means to me, coming from someone who's been doing Olympic weightlifting for about 10 years now. So what I usually determine a short-term goal is basically anything between about 3 months or so. So also, it kind of depends on the programming, so we can kind of really get into it. So anytime that we have any sort of programming, you can kind of look at basically what you're going to be trying to PR in a couple of weeks, what the percentages look like. So for example, if we're looking at, let's say week 1, you're doing a heavy set of 3. And then you see week 2, you're looking at another heavy set of 3, and you're like, okay, we can maybe try for a 10-pound PR, maybe try for a 5-pound PR. So that would be, what you're going to test in maybe a couple of months. So for those, once you get to those, let's say a heavy 3, during those heavy 3, you'll hopefully reflect back on that and say, oh, I had a good catch, or I missed the catch, or I could have had more acceleration at the bottom. You can really dissect that heavy 3 just from that one lift, right? You can really dissect the speed, the catch, the feel of it in terms of, oh yeah, that felt great. Wow, I had 10 to 15 pounds more in the tank, because sometimes we do that. Sometimes we take a heavy 3 and we're like, oh, I could have definitely added 10 more pounds, So you got to really dissect that, just deconstruct everything and really get into it in terms of, hey, I definitely, next time, I'm going to write this down, or I'm going to take a note on my phone and say, push a little harder, put 5 pounds, 10 pounds more, right? The only caveat to that is obviously how you feel on the next training day that you have the time to take that heavy 3. And maybe it's just not on the cards that day. I've had 6-month span where every PR attempt I tried to take, let's say on the front squat, was I would hit, let's say, a 305, and my PR was about 315. So I would try to take 320, and I would miss 320. Or I try to take 315 again, and that day I just wasn't feeling good, and it just missed it. So it's you got to put those variables in that will kind of determine your short-term goal and what you're able to achieve in that short amount of time, right? If you're real new into weightlifting, it's basically like bodybuilding, right? You get those newbie gains. Sometimes technique, you adapt technique a lot more efficiently, which in turn makes your lifts more efficiently, and you can move more weight, right? Stamina increases, everything like that. It's a very dramatic curve, I would say, in the first year, and you might be PRing like your total might be going up 15 to 20 pounds each comp. Like it's sometimes it gets a little crazy, but if you're a more experienced lifter, it takes a longer span of time to get pounds on, and again, that's what comes with the territory. When you get more advanced, those cycles do get longer, which segues us to midterm goals, right? So for me, I live a little bit in the midterm goals. That's going to be about 6 months for me. So you're looking at, sometimes if you're taking a longer cycle, like about 4-week cycle, typically that ends right in front of a competition. If not, you might be starting another training cycle, and that competition is, month 5.5. Right? Sometimes that follows through, and you don't really peak for that competition, but you use that in conjunction with your training. So you just got to be a little more mindful of those midterm goals and just remind yourself, like, oh, hey, there's competition. You want to at least be within body weight a month prior. Just make sure those pounds are all dialed in and your body weight's ready to go, so you don't really have to worry about that. So for me, midterm goals is more of a total. If you're going to compete, if your last total was 100 kilos, let's say, right? You want to shoot for maybe 105, 110. Or, if you're going to go for it a little bit, you might feel pretty amazing. You might get your total up by 20 kilos. But again, that's all for, I would say, the newer lifters, right? I typically, at least me personally, we try to, depending how I look, how I feel, between about an 8 kilogram total. That's about maybe, let's say, a 3 kilogram PR in the snatch, and then maybe a heavier PR in the clean and jerk. Again, it all depends. All depends how I feel. All depends how I look in the warm-up room. But typically, it's around that. If you get 3 competitions in a year, and if you can hit, an 8 kilo PR in each comp, that's huge. That's 24 kilos, right? In 3 years, you would compete to, in the American Open series, the final series. That'd be crazy. So you got to put that all in perspective, right? This is a game of time, consistency, and focus. So if you lack in any of those 3, it's gonna be hard to see those consistent gains, and you might, lose hope of that. Just to be completely honest, it takes time, and it takes those hours in the gym to, reap those rewards that not too many people reap. So quickly back to the video, we're doing a set of 10. Anybody out there that's done a set of 10 for a max? We're different tiers of human beings, different tiers, completely different mindset when it comes to set of 10. It's even working up to a set of 10 is tiring to take that set of 10. And for me, I topped out at about 100 kilos for a set of 10. For me, it was just trying to maintain an upright torso, as you'll see right here, and just keeping that consistent speed up. So typically, when it comes to heavy squats, my back gets a little rounded, which you'll see during, when I start. It's easily to see in this shirt too, because the shirt gets flatter as I dip a little bit forward. I would say the body was feeling about 7.5 in terms of just being tired and beaten up a little bit. But we warmed up a lot, and I think that was instrumental to me making these heavy reps. And my coach was kind of letting us know what strategy to use in taking a max weight. And that was about maybe 5 to 6 sets, and then you're primed and ready to go to take that final set of 10. For me, less is more, so I did a little mixture of that, and it helped a lot. I think that's a PR in terms of a 10 rep max, but I've never really done a 10 rep max, so you got to factor that into that. So going to finally the long term, right? A whole year. So that, just sit on that for a second. A whole year. A lot can change in a whole year. A lot of life events can happen in a whole year. You could get injured, you can move, different occupation, things like that. So that whole year, you gotta really kind of anticipate some big things happening in terms of you're gonna get stronger, way stronger. Your technique's gonna get way better, and just kind of make it simple though. At the same time, you want to shoot for, let's say, a 30 kilo total at the end of the year. It may be a far-reaching goal, or when it comes to that year, you'll be like, wow, that was really on point, or that was, maybe we're lacking by a couple of kilos. But either way, you want to make some sort of realistic prediction in terms of what you think you'll be able to accomplish realistically, right? How many days do you have to train? How much time do you have allocated in your week to go train? And how much are you willing to sacrifice to get to those goals, right? So again, it all comes back to how you want to approach your your career, your lifting career, and what resources you have allocated to that career. So, for example, for me, I put this before a lot of things, but at the same time, I do this when I start my day, typically. And the only days that go later in the time is Thursdays and Saturdays. And, well, just Thursdays. Thursday I train 8 to 10, but I took that day off. So when you summarize it all up, short, mid, long-term goals. Make sure, put them in your notes, write them down, talk to your coach, talk to a friend you're training with, and ask them if that's realistic. And if it's not, still keep it, and then write a plan B. You never know. But let me know what your short, mid, and long-term goals are, guys. And don't forget to like the video, comment down below, and make sure to tag me in any of your videos or just send them to me directly. I'd love to comment on them. We can mix ideas and see what's going on. Again, thank you so much for your time, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good week. I'll see ya.